Funding for the Nash Villager podcast comes from the neurosurgeons of the Howell Allen Clinic, national leaders in brain and spine surgery, specializing in laser brain tumor surgery and robotic spine surgery. The Howell Allen Clinic. Your life is our life's work.
This is the Nash Villager podcast. It's August 25th, 2026. On this day in 1609, Galileo demonstrated his brand new invention, the telescope. He went on to use that telescope to confirm a scientific theory the church considered a dangerous hoax, that Earth was one of several planets orbiting the sun instead of being the center of the known universe. And exactly 226 years later, on this day in 1835, the New York Sun newspaper printed the first in a series of stories about amazing discoveries that they said the British astronomer Sir James Herschel had made using a very powerful telescope. And this time people believed what they read, but they should have been more skeptical. The article said he spotted rushing rivers and towering crystals of amethyst on the moon, creatures like unicorns and two-legged beavers, even bat-winged moon people. The stories were actually intended as satire. And after a few weeks, the paper published a clarification that it was, in fact, fiction. From that point on, the articles became known as the Great Moon Hoax. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with context and backstory from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Well, speaking of hoaxes, Tennessee has a part to play in the story of a more recent one, with layers of developments spanning generations. The Bat Creek stone, or tablet, first emerged in 1889. At that time, the Smithsonian Institution was sending scientists around the U.S. to study native cultures, traditional practices, and their history. Part of that effort involved examining man-made earthen mounds. There had been a lot of pseudoscientific claims that essentially amounted to folk mythology about their origin, including stories that said some mysterious group of people had come from somewhere else and built the mounds to hold their treasure. And let's just say, generally folks would claim it was white people who'd come over, built amazing things, and then died off, because the people who shared those theories couldn't believe that native groups had that capability. The Smithsonian excavation sought to debunk those theories. One dig happened in East Tennessee on the banks of Bat Creek, which is a tributary of the Little Tennessee River. A field assistant named John Emmert said he found a stone lodged underneath a skull, and that stone was etched with 8 symbols that appeared to be some kind of writing. The interpretation the scientists on hand took, and that they published, was that this was an early example of the Cherokee writing system, which, on the one hand, bolsters the correct understanding of the mounds as being built by Native Americans. But on the other hand, it makes no sense, because there is a great deal of evidence to show that a man named Sequoyah developed that writing system in the 1820s. The stone was cataloged, put in the Smithsonian storage vaults, and largely forgotten about until the 1970s. That's when it caught the attention of a controversial scholar of Near East studies named Cyrus Gordon. Now, Gordon is a man whose career was full of instances where he got big ideas that other people in his field tried to scale back. Initially, it was that he wanted to take on projects he wasn't really ready to handle. But eventually, Gordon became fixated on very big theories linking multiple societies together, theories that didn't quite hold up to scrutiny. Gordon was particularly interested in languages, Ugaritic texts, early Hebrew writings, Akkadian cuneiform. And when Gordon saw the Bat Creek stone, he thought he was seeing writings from another closely related language. He said it was a very early form of ancient Hebrew, but upside down. That interpretation fueled brand new theories that people from the ancient Near East had somehow ended up in East Tennessee. And notice how similar that is to the 19th century folk mythology about the mounds. It ended up resurfacing some of those old ideas. But finally, after that had a chance to build up steam for a couple of decades, someone made yet another discovery, that the text on the stone was not unique. It is an almost exact match for an image printed about 15 years prior to that Smithsonian dig in a book for Freemasons. Now, the stone has been tested. The geological material matches the other items in that mound. It likely was placed in the mound more than 1,500 years ago. So then folks took a closer look at the man who discovered the stone in the first place. John Emmert had been downgraded from archaeologist to field assistant because of bad behavior. His professionalism had been questioned on multiple occasions. And the conclusion that many have reached since the Masonic text was identified in 2004 is that Emmert did find that stone in the mound, but before he handed it over, he inscribed the message on it. In other words, it was a hoax all along. In just a few minutes, a look at some items from more recent history whose origins we know for sure, the Johnny Cash archives. That's coming up after the newscast.
Funding for the Nash Villager podcast comes from the neurosurgeons of the Howell Allen Clinic, national leaders in brain and spine surgery, specializing in laser brain tumor surgery and robotic spine surgery. The Howell Allen Clinic. Your life is our life's work.
We know that local government isn't the only part of your life.
Like the mayor, I know that city government isn't the only thing you're concerned with.
We are still struggling to find affordable housing.
They're taking over this bus stop.
That's one of the unique challenges with my business.
I'm WPLN's Metro reporter Cynthia Abrams. I'm working to break down topics like transit, housing, and local government to make sure that when you are thinking about Metro, you're getting the full story. Follow my latest stories at WPLN.org.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Metro Council members are trying to stop a planned ICE call center from coming to the Nashville area. A $63 million federal contract was granted to an Alaska company called Coniag. The contract, obtained by the Tennessee Lookout, initially located the facility in Adams, but attention seems to now be focused on a building in Nashville's Metropolitan Airport Center on Royal Parkway. The property is within a unique zip code that is given to major companies or agencies better equipped to handle high-volume mail. The call center will provide 24-hour support for local law enforcement agencies that collaborate with ICE. Although arrangements have not been finalized, several city leaders are opposing the center. Council members Terry Vo, Sandra Sepulveda, and Zulfat Suara say they are considering legislation to block the call center from coming to Nashville. The company that owns Budweiser says Tennessee owes it $2 million. The Department of Revenue declined tax breaks for InBev. The company argues the law changed and that the state used the old formula to calculate InBev's tax bill and overcharged. InBev asked for a refund and didn't get it, so it's taking the fight to county court in Davidson. The state of Tennessee is actively trying to convince the federal government to build a nuclear life cycle campus in this state. But one state lawmaker is not on board with that idea. Ed Butler represents parts of several East Tennessee counties in the state house. He says while he supports nuclear energy development, his constituents are very concerned that the facility might end up in one of their communities. The Tennessee Lookout reports Butler sent a letter to the governor saying any economic benefits would be outweighed by potential environmental risks.
But I just have concerns about storing these types of materials underground when we have aquifers and waterways and so forth that's underground in Tennessee. And it's specifically, a lot of people still use wells in some of these rural areas because there is no city water.
The Federal Department of Energy has shortlisted Tennessee as it determines where it will spend $50 billion on a new facility that will have multiple components, ranging from nuclear fuel production and enrichment to recycling and storing nuclear waste. The Trump administration is bringing foreign beef into American markets to lower prices. Tennessee cattle farmers say this will hamper the country's beef supply in the long run. Trump made a deal with beef importers who, according to the Tennessean, agreed to sell their products for about 25% less than the going price. The deal is for 300,000 metric tons, enough for every person in America to get about 2 pounds of beef. Trump announced the deal on Truth Social. Beef prices have more than doubled over the past 5 years. There are several contributing factors. One of them is the U.S. cattle herd size has fallen to its lowest level in 75 years, mostly because of drought and resulting spikes in feed costs. Tennessee Farm Bureau President Eric Mayberry says Tennessee cattle producers understand the importance of affordable prices, but rebuilding the U.S. cattle herd takes time. The group says importing a bunch of beef will drive down prices and make farmers less likely to spend time and money growing their herds. They argue that makes the problem worse in the long run. In the last few weeks, extreme heat and drought have devastated Tennessee crops. That, on top of recent cuts to SNAP benefits, have more Tennesseans needing food assistance. WPLN's Mariana Bacchiao reports from a Nashville church that is looking to do more to help.
Extreme weather events like ice storms and heat waves can make food scarcer. Take rice, for example.
Ironically, hilariously, sadly, rice is one of the crops that are one of the biggest indicators of climate crisis.
That's Reverend Stacey Harwell-Dye. This Sunday, she's helping organize an event where people can talk about food insecurity. The cost of admission will be a bag of rice for the people who can afford it, because it's one shelf-stable crop that food pantries always need. She says Christians are called to glean, the biblical practice of leaving some of your food unharvested so strangers who are hungry will have something to take.
So this biblical command to leave some fruit on the vine, some vegetable in your field, some wheat out for the people who cannot afford it. And it is theirs to glean. It is theirs to take. It's a commandment.
In the summer, Harwell-Dye usually helps pack produce for people who need food.
But we didn't have a crop this year.
She says she's not sure why, but a USDA soil report shows that Tennessee's crops have taken a hit by a recent drought, with nearly 80% of the state's soil currently rated very poor. So instead, the organizer from Society of St. Andrews had them pack seeds.
And there's hope in that, right? Like, she wasn't just like, there are no crops, so we have nothing to do. She was like, there will be crops. Let us give seeds to people that need it.
But until those seeds can become food, donations like instant rice and other pantry staples are all the more important. Mariana Bacchiao, WPLN News.
The event called Bread and Canvas will be at West End United Methodist Church this Sunday. Operator error. That is the conclusion of a state investigation into what caused a swing ride at the state fair to malfunction last week. The wave swinger at the Wilson County, Tennessee State Fair swings people in chairs around a center column. Multiple people were hurt and taken to the hospital after the ride started to dip down and caused riders to hit a fence. The ride was back and running last Friday. Tennessee's Department of Labor and Workforce Development told WSMV that the accident was caused by an operator error and not by mechanical malfunction. The fatal shooting of a Nashville 16-year-old has drawn the attention of a national anti-violence group, including additional reward money for information to solve the crime. Nashville police say Cameron Frierson was killed on Herman Street shortly after the Pearl Cone High School football game on Friday. Witnesses said shots came from a white sedan with tinted windows. Frierson was a junior at Hunters Lane High School. His mother wrote on GoFundMe that he was a determined and responsible kid who was working 2 jobs to support himself. The family is collecting donations to help with funeral expenses, and you can find a link with our coverage at WPLN.org. As detectives look into the shooting, reward money is available from Crime Stoppers. In addition, the Uvalde Foundation for Kids has added a $5,000 reward. The group advocates for violence prevention involving students. A recent drowning at Percy Priest Lake is the 29th there in the last decade, making it one of the deadliest bodies of water in Tennessee. State wildlife officials say that 72-year-old Philip Green and a female companion had taken a boat on the lake last Sunday. They jumped into the water for a swim, and then their boat started to drift. After an hour, the woman was rescued, but it took several days until Green's body was found. The waters attract numerous families, boaters, and fishermen each summer, but there are sudden drop-offs and rock structures under the surface that can make the lake dangerous in some areas. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Johnny Cash's personal archives are going to Belmont University. The school raised $8.6 million to purchase hundreds of bankers' boxes full of letters, lyrics, and photos, all of which will be available to students and researchers next year. Music and culture reporter Justin Barney went to the school to see a couple of choice items.
On a glass table in an office at Belmont University, Mary Ellen Pethel holds a piece of loose-leaf paper.
These are some lyrics from the song Fly Away.
The thing is, Johnny Cash never released a song called Fly Away.
I'm going to flip it around and show you that it's got the end of the song, and he signed it with the date September 1967.
Pethel, the director of the Johnny Cash Learning Center and Archives, says that students and researchers will soon also get to hold this water-stained and worn piece of paper with Johnny Cash's handwritten lyrics and wonder, what would this song have sounded like? Belmont is building a learning center on Music Row that will house the collection. right behind Columbia Studio A. She says that the collection isn't going to the Country Music Hall of Fame or the Johnny Cash Museum.
It's really intended for the continuation of research and scholarship about Johnny Cash. So not just the tourist aspect or the fandom, but for the legacy of a musical icon.
The items are a metaphorical trunk in the attic. There's letters, photos, VHS tapes, and other ephemera, including some unusual keepsakes.
There is a hermetically sealed bag of cotton from his dad in the Arkansas farm.
She already has a Johnny Cash biographer ready to view the collection and a songwriter who is hoping to be inspired by it. There's also a plan to digitize a large part of the collection, and that will be made available to the public. From Nashville Public Radio, I'm Justin Barney.
We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. Please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. And thanks so much to all of you who've left 5 stars, a thumbs up, or a review in your app of choice. That little bit of love really does tell the algorithms that more people should hear about us. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can make a donation at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.
Funding for the Nash Villager podcast comes from the neurosurgeons of the Howell Allen Clinic, national leaders in brain and spine surgery, specializing in laser brain tumor surgery and robotic spine surgery. The Howell Allen Clinic. Your life is our life's work.